welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. National Assembly passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill, approves electronic transmission of results. Federal Executive Council approves 2021 to 2025 National Development Plan with an investment size of 348.7 trillion naira. Independent National Electoral Commission declares former Central Bank Governor Professor Soludo winner of Anambra governorship poll. Plus, South Africa's last white president, F.W. de Klerk, dies at the age of 85. That's News Round in View. And we begin with the passage of the much-anticipated Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the National Assembly. The harmonized version of the bill empowers the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to determine the procedure for voting and transmission of election results. The lawmakers also condemned the siege to the home of Justice Mary Odili and called on the Plateau State House of Assembly to be guided by the rule of law in its leadership tussle.
The Senate resumes plenary session after a break to enable its committees hold budget defense sessions with ministries, departments and agencies. Both chambers adopt the report of a conference committee on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which allows electoral umpire INEC to determine the procedure for voting and transmission of results during an election. They also approve of direct primaries for all elective positions. In July this year, the Senate and House of Representatives passed different versions of the bill. The Senate in its version adopted both direct and indirect primaries and empowered the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) to determine the use of electronic means to transmit election results. The House on its part allowed INEC to transmit results of elections by electronic means where and when practicable and also adopted direct primaries.
I'm happy to say that most of what we call citizens' top priorities on the Electoral Act Amendment, including the use of technology, has been addressed by this Electoral Act 2021.
Those in favor of the motion that the vote...
During the suspension of plenary, several peculiar and downright tragic events occurred across the country, and lawmakers tabled these issues before the Senate.
At about 3 p.m. on Monday,
Senator Oluremi Tinubu draws the attention of the Senate to the tragedy of the collapsed building under construction in Ikoyi, Lagos, where at least 40 people were killed.
This is a disaster of epic proportions, the magnitude of which cannot be overlooked.
A federal lawmaker requests the urgent intervention of the Senate on the siege on the residence of Supreme Court Judge Justice Mary Odili by security agents.
The Senate is disturbed that 11 days after the incident, though the Inspector General of Police claims some arrests have been made and investigations are still going on, details of such arrests have not been made public. We urge the Inspector General of Police to make public the outcome of the investigations within 2 weeks, as so moved.
I'm suggesting that instead of putting 2 weeks, we say thorough investigation, and then he makes it public.
For Senator Stephanus Gyang, the impeachment of the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly by 8 lawmakers weighs heavily on his mind.
The Senate is disturbed of the alleged impeachment of the Speaker, Right Honorable Ayuba Abog, by 8 members of the House of Assembly, which falls short of the 2/3 constitutionally required number of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended.
The upper chamber condemns the unconstitutional impeachment of the Speaker, Right Honorable Abok Ayuba, and urges the Plateau State House of Assembly to be guided by the rule of law and the Constitution in all of its legislative businesses. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, former CBN Governor Professor Soludo has been declared winner of the Anambra governorship election after the supplementary election in Ihiala local government area. The All Progressives Grand Alliance candidate won with 112,229 votes, beating Valentine Ozigbo of the People's Democratic Party, who polled 53,807 votes, and Anduba of the All Progressives Congress, who got 43,285 votes.
Four, that Charles Chukwuma Soludo of APGA, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
That is the announcement that finally puts a closure to the Anambra State governorship election. This is one election that has been stretched beyond the regular election. First elections were extended on the actual day by hours in some places and to the next day in some other places. In spite of that, election did not hold in Ihiala local government area, forcing the Independent National Electoral Commission to announce a supplementary poll for Ihiala local government on Tuesday, November 9th. At the end of the day, it's not just the victor that's glad the election is finally over.
We thank, first of all, those who voted for us, the people of Anambra State. Then we thank the Independent National Electoral Commission and the security agencies. This election is the best election ever conducted in Anambra State, and we hope that subsequent elections will be like this or better than this.
We will go back to our table, our campaign will meet, and the party will also meet and decide what to do next.
Notably, however, is the refusal of the APC agent to sign the results sheet, and the parties have different reactions to this.
APC has refused to sign the results again, despite the fact that they did not win even one local government in the entire state. They did not win one local government in the entire state. So let them allow our democracy to blossom.
That there were so many local governments like Anambra West, Anambra East, Idemili North and Idemili South that were not really completed. We have a lot of questions, but we have to sit down and look at it and see what makes sense.
The electoral body and security agencies must be giving themselves a pat on the back for successfully conducting the 2021 governorship election in Anambra State against all odds. It's not exactly clear, however, if all the parties in the contest share in that sense of fulfillment.
The Federal Executive Council has approved a new national development plan at a virtual meeting chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The new plan about to be rolled out is to run from 2021 to 2025 with an investment size of 348.7 trillion naira. Briefing journalists on the matter after the meeting, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Hamid, said the federal government will broaden the tax base and expand the capacity of the private sector through the creation of investment opportunities as part of a funding strategy for the plan.
Six ministers are physically present as the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, chairs the virtual Federal Executive Council meeting. Among critical approvals at this meeting is the 2021 to 2025 National Development Plan, which is a successor program to the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning informs State House correspondents that the annual national budget will be derived from the plan, structured on 6 concepts.
These clusters include economic growth and development, infrastructure, public administration, human capital development, social development, and regional development. And also, the plan has been costed to have an investment size of 348.7 trillion over the 5-year period. This investment size is to be contributed by the public sector at 49.7 trillion, representing 14.3%, and the private sector at 298.3 trillion, representing 85.7%. The National Development Plan 2021 to 2022 has been approved today by the Federal Executive Council for implementation as a successor plan to the elapsed Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 to 2020.
For decades, Nigeria has developed various national development plans, some of which has come under criticism. But the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning insists the issue of lack of inclusivity has been eliminated.
We had to make sure it's national enough, that is to say, it should be prepared by the federal government, the state governments, the local governments, and more importantly, the organized private sector.
The Council equally approves 2.35 billion naira to the Ministry of Health for cancer equipment in 2 universities. The federal government had in February approved 12 hospitals for the treatment of cancer, a disease that reportedly claims the lives of about 40,000 persons annually. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And to security matters now, over 3,000 inmates who have escaped from various correctional centers across the country are still at large but will be apprehended soon. That's according to the Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, who disclosed this at a media briefing put together by the presidential media team at the State House, Abuja. He notes that over 900 inmates out of 4,860 that escaped from the centers from 2020 till date have been recaptured.
It's the turn of the nation's Interior Minister, Rauf Aregbesola, at the weekly ministerial briefings in the State House. He begins by giving account of happenings in his ministry, including efforts to address the growing demand for Nigerian passports. A total of 2.7 million passports of various categories have been issued since 2019 to date.
The ministry has approved a special deployment of over 600,000 passport booklets, the largest ever done, to cushion the effects of shortages being experienced, to limit human interference with the passport application process, gradually eliminate corruption, and improve efficiency. We are reviewing the entire passport application, production, and issuance process.
In a question and answer session, the Interior Minister gave a broader picture of ongoing efforts to arrest escaped inmates numbering 3,906.
All the criminals that feel they can at will test our will as a government will ultimately face their comeuppance and justice will catch up with them. Take that as an assurance for me. So, the state is patient. What is best is for you not to break the law. All those who have offended our laws in whatever form must realize that the state has one thing now on them. We have their biometrics. Whenever and wherever they appear to transact any legitimate business, their cover will be blown.
The minister is not oblivious to other concerns like a perceived corruption within the Nigeria Immigration Service. For this reason, new reforms such as a new appointment management system is in the offing to tackle this.
The Interior Minister is confident that his ministry has not slacked in the responsibility of responding swiftly to dire situations, including the Ikoyi multi-story building collapse recently. He's also appealing to the judiciary to expedite action on the issue of awaiting trial persons to further decongest the prisons across the country. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And when Newsround returns, police parade 14 suspects behind siege to home of Justice Mary Odili of the Supreme Court. Join us again. Welcome back. The police says it has arrested 14 suspects who allegedly took part in the siege to the residence of Justice Mary Odili. The suspects include a fake chief superintendent of police, a journalist, Lawrence Ajodo, and an Islamic scholar. Parading the suspects in Abuja, the Force Public Relations Officer, CP Frank Mba, says they were arrested following a swift investigation launched by the police into the matter.
This parade of suspects is the latest twist in the story of the siege on the Abuja residence of a Supreme Court Justice, Justice Mary Odili. On the evening of Friday, October 29, 2021, some persons who claim to be security operatives stormed Justice Mary Odili's home in Maitama, Abuja, with a search warrant allegedly obtained from a chief magistrate by a body identified as the Joint Panel Recovery Unit in the Ministry of Justice, following a tip by a whistleblower named Aliu Umar. The action had sparked a flurry of reactions from various groups, including the National Assembly and the Nigerian Bar Association. These suspects occupying the front rows in the conference hall of the Force Criminal Investigative Department, Abuja, including a woman, the Force Public Relations Officer say were part of those who carried out the siege.
A total of 14 suspects are here with us today. 7 are still at large, and detectives are working around the clock to round up the remaining suspects who are either directly or indirectly linked with this very serious offense.
The suspects from various professions were said to have taken days perfecting their plans, including obtaining documents and seeking permission from authorities.
These persons also made attempts to reach out to EFCC and see if they can enlist the support of some personnel of EFCC to carry out this raid. There is no involvement at all of the officials of the Federal Ministry of Justice. In this case, these criminals are loose cannons who were all out forging different documents and trying to carry out their crimes under all kinds of false representations.
The key suspect, Lawrence Ajodo, whom the police identified as an imposter chief superintendent of police, claims he is a banking consultant and had been involved in some bank account recovery tasks assigned to him by the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, but says the AGF did not send him for the siege on Justice Odili's home.
They give me 29 accounts to recover. They did not give to any chamber. I am the one they give. Malami give to me. But this assignment I went, Malami did not send me. So that's it. I'm a consultant. I'm a recovery.
This man, who claims to be a journalist with one of the national dailies, is also among the suspects. And according to him, he was only after getting a big story.
When he told me that, there's a lead of a scoop of an asset recovery and funds that they claim to be in a house that nobody is residing, that it involves millions of dollars. I said, but what is all this that Nigeria is borrowing money and there's a large amount of money stashed in some people's houses? That was when he now told me about Lawrence Ajodo.
For now, the police say they have spread their net, hoping to apprehend the remaining suspects who are at large, including 2 military personnel and an immigration officer, and are reaching out to agencies whose staff were fingered in the matter. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
Now to the judiciary, where the trial of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, at the Federal High Court, Abuja, has been adjourned to January 19, 2022. This came as lawyers to Kanu protested the alleged refusal by the DSS to allow them access into the courtroom where the trial judge, Justice Binta Nyako, was to hear the application challenging the jurisdiction of the court and the competency of the charge.
Chants of solidarity song rent the air as pro- and anti-IPOP protesters gather outside the Federal High Court premises. Heavy security is now a normal sight at the trial of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, who is facing a 7-count charge bordering on treason, felony, and alleged involvement in acts of terrorism before a federal high court in Abuja. Cameras were not allowed into the courtroom as security operatives screen out several journalists and lawyers. At the commencement of the day's proceedings, the defense team, led by Ifeanyi Ejiofor, were not present in court, prompting the presiding judge, Justice Binta Nyako, to ask Mr. Kanu of his whereabouts. Mr. Kanu informs the court that his lawyers are protesting the denial of access to his American lawyer, who is in court to witness the trial. As a result, the prosecution counsel, Mr. Mohammed Abubakar, asks the court to dismiss all pending applications that were filed by Mr. Kanu's legal team. Although displeased at the turn of events, Justice Nyako refuses to dismiss the pending applications.
We have lawyers who managed to come up, but they were not allowed access to the court. So they are not much in their numbers. The court will have access. Let's seek clarification from us before proceeding. But I'm not surprised. We are still outside. When we are told that the court was about to sit, we are trying to get inside. They lock us out.
This is a lock us out.
They lock us out. I was insisting, shouting that they should open the door. They lock us out. So we didn't have access to court, only for us to be told that the matter has been mentioned and adjourned to 19th and 2nd of January 2022. Recall that we have an application before this court challenging the competence of the charge. 1, 2, challenging the use of the court to proceed with it, because what we have before the court is just an empty paper.
Mr. Kanu's American lawyer also vows to take up the matter at the International Criminal Court of Justice at The Hague.
And there's one thing that I have already decided is Nnamdi's international lawyer. We don't need any strategy. I'm going to the working group on arbitrary detention in Geneva. I go to the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice in The Hague, the U.S. Congress, to bring to light the travesty of justice that is occurring.
The matter is then adjourned to January the 19th, 2022 for continuation of the trial.
And finally on News Round, South Africa's last white president, F.W. de Klerk, has died peacefully in his home in Cape Town following his struggle against mesothelioma cancer. South Africans have been watching a video said to be the last message of a frail de Klerk. In the video, he says he had on many occasions apologized for the pain and indignity that apartheid brought to persons of color in the country.
F.W. de Klerk was a major force in South Africa's transition from apartheid state to fully fledged democracy.
Yesterday was correctly described as the final moment of the birth of a nation. That nation needs a sound, strong, multi-party system.
While the tide of history would probably have made the change inevitable, it was de Klerk who accelerated the pace of reform. Essentially a conservative by nature, the last president of a segregated nation came to believe that the white minority rule was not sustainable.
I wish to put it plainly that the government has taken a firm decision to release Mr. Mandela unconditionally.
His ending of the ban on the African National Congress and freeing of Nelson Mandela were the steps that triggered the move to majority rule. Frederick Willem de Klerk was born on 18th of March 1936 in Johannesburg into a line of Afrikaner National Party politicians. His father, Jan, had been a cabinet minister. He went to Potchefstroom University, known for its conservatism, and by the time he took his law degree, apartheid was firmly established. After 11 years as a lawyer in 1972, he won a safe parliamentary seat for the National Party, which had introduced the system of apartheid in 1948. A series of ministerial posts, the last in education, took him to the top of his party. At the time, he was a firm believer in apartheid and its legal architecture, separate residential areas, schools and institutions for different race groups. Nevertheless, de Klerk was a relative outsider when he became party leader in February 1989 after President P.W. Botha suffered a stroke.
I, Frederik Willem de Klerk, do swear to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
De Klerk demonstrated that he was prepared to thread where Botha had never dared. He publicly called for a non-racist South Africa, and late in 1989, he freed top African National Congress official Walter Sisulu and other political prisoners as a preliminary move ahead of his more sweeping reforms.
And that does it on News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Thank you so much for watching. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.